Hey listener, welcome to 1000 Routes. I'm your host, Nick Bennett. In each episode, we explore the uncommon paths of solopreneurs who have bet on themselves and the reality of what it takes to build a business that serves your life. And if you want to change your own route, you can check out Full Stack Solopreneur, our 90-day group coaching program that has helped dozens build clear, compelling offers that you can market and sell with confidence. You can join now at fullstacksolo.com. That's fullstack, SOLO.com. Enjoy the episode. Yo, Devin Reed, what's good, man?
What's good? A lot of things are good. A lot of things are good right now. Life's good. High level, life's good. Yeah, life's great.
I love your show, dude, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
I love Read Between the Lines. I feel like you put maximum effort into that show and it shows. I can tell there's like a lot of love in there, and like you put a lot of care into the whole setup, the people you have on, doing your research. Like, this one thing to do a show on set with people, which is like demanding for 1,000 reasons. Like, you have to leave your house, which is arguably one of the hardest things to do anymore. I'm curious, like, what's the idea behind the show? Because you launched that when you were still at Clari, right?
Yeah, I did. The idea behind the show was like, I had done a podcast at Gong. So I spun up and hosted that show for, I think, like 2.5 years, maybe 2 years. And we did an episode every single week. Probably only did repeat episodes like 4 times a year. So like, I don't know, whatever that math is, like 100 plus interviews. And the show over time, because Gong had a great audience, like, we built it in, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but like it had gotten like over 100,000 downloads for sure during that time, which for a B2B interview podcast is like pretty tough to do. And so I done it, I would say, successfully there. And then I went to Clari and spun one up for Kyle Coleman, who was our CMO. So I wasn't on that show, but I helped design and run it, and my team did. And then I had kind of gotten these like questions from friends. I would say it was like the top 5 things anyone was asking me, but it would come up at like events and stuff like, hey, but when are you going to do a show? Like the Devin Reed show. And it was a good question. It was cool because I think I had maybe earned it from my audience or the market of like, they wanted that from me, right? I've been on LinkedIn for years. I've had a newsletter for a couple of years. And now people are like, how do we get kind of, I don't know, more Devin or a different, more proximity to Devin, which would be a video show or a podcast. And so I started thinking about it. I was like, if I'm going to do a show, I want it to be completely different from any like B2B marketing show. And so what I did, Nick, was I made a list of 2 lists. The first was like, I went to Share Your Genius, which is my podcast agency, free plug. I love them. If you need help, call them.
They produce this show too. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
I love that. And so I was like, give me the top like 10 marketing B2B podcasts based on like the word of mouth, the ones y'all hear a lot, and by data. And so I listened to an episode of all of them, and I found really quickly these like patterns where everyone kind of starts them the same way, and they kind of sound the same, they kind of feel the same, and they're mostly flat. And I just like, I don't really want to consume this, to be honest. I didn't hit follow on maybe about 1 or 2, maybe 1. And it was Dave Gerhardt's, and I wasn't following it yet. It was like, DG is kind of the exception, right? I made this list and I was like, cool, I'm going to do the exact opposite. So if they're doing Zoom, I'm going to do in person. If it's always like a C-level person at the company, I'm going to do people doing cool shit regardless of your title. So I made this like long list, and I basically just designed it that way, which was like, it has to be something that excites me. And I love doing things differently. So I'm like, always on? No, we're doing series based. Like, always Zoom? No, we'll be in person. That's just kind of how I came up with it. And then the name found itself because I'm a dad and I love puns. So Read Between the Lines just felt great. And I'm a big Anthony Bourdain fan. So it was this cool way of like, how do we make, for those who haven't listened, we travel from city to city and talk to the business owners, creators, and marketers in those cities. And so how do we kind of make like the city a little bit of a character, in the show? So like if you're talking to all Chicago folks, you might see a through line, or New York. So long answer to a short question, but that's how we came up with it.
Well, you said the thing that I was thinking, which is every B2B, or it's not even like this is a B2B show or what you're doing, but it's like all of the shows that have some of the usual suspects is the same show copy and pasted.
Yeah.
And it's not the guest's fault. It's just like a lack of premise. Like, I think you take a very intentional position on the show, and you're just trying to figure out what makes certain people tick. And it's not like they're going to show up and say the same thing that they said on every other show ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad. Thank you for picking up on that, because that was another thing I noticed where like a good example was, I don't know if you know Doug Landis. He used to be the chief storytelling officer at Box. And so I had him on, and then he was a growth partner. I can't remember where, but at a VC. And so when I got connected to him and had him on the show, I was like doing research, and I'm like, every single show is about being the chief storytelling officer, because that's such a cool title.
Right.
So I kind of warned him ahead of time. I'm like, just so you know, I'm not asking you a single question about that, because other people can listen to those podcasts. I want to go deeper. And to your point, kind of ask the questions that I label as like, let's talk as if work's not watching.
That's the best lens.
Yeah. And so I'm like, cool. And he's told me to this day, he's like, no, I've done a ton of these things. No, like you stand out because no one asked me the questions to share the things that I've never shared on camera before. And I'm like, cool, that's the biggest compliment as an interviewer. And I take being an interviewer as like a career, a craft. And so, yeah, that's why I'm like, cool, you can, there's a lot of shows out there. Let's have personality be a big part of it, mine and theirs, right? So you feel like we're media friends, even if we've never met.
Yeah, you like become a character in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love those people on the podcast I listen to, from comedians to professionals and everyone between. I'm like, there's some people like I know their kids' names because they talk about them and I listen and all that cool stuff.
This is a good transition to, because you had brought up Gong and Clari, and it's no secret that you were the head of content at 2 different billion-dollar startups. And it's like, arguably, you could walk into any tech company you want and go get a job. If I'm going to call it like I see it, Devin. I'm not surprised you went solo, not one bit. But what was the turning point for you? Like, I felt like every day I was like, today's the day. And then like a year went by and then you finally did it. So like, walk me through the moment that you decided to wind things up at Clari and go all in on the reader.
Yeah. So real quick, I'll take a quick short stop on from Gong to Clari, because at the time of leaving Gong, that was when a lot of people in my friend circle who I'm leaving, they were saying the same thing. It's like, oh, you're going solo, or you got to go solo. And the reason I didn't then, to a lot of people's dismay, was I was insecure, Nick, that like maybe I was a one-hit wonder with Gong. So I was a sales rep before I went into the head of content at Gong, where we sold to sales reps. So it was like this perfect marriage. And I have a lot of self-doubt. And so I was like, I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, I just don't know, like if I go solo now, is my credibility big enough, right? Is it, oh yeah, you did Gong, but what else? And when I told my wife, I'm afraid that I might be a one-hit wonder, she said, there's only one way to find out. And so I was like, all right, there you go. So I wanted to go to Clari and prove to myself that I was the best content strategist in SaaS. It's such an egotistical thing, but I'm like, if you want to be the greatest, you can't do it once, right? You can't win one championship. You got to go do it twice. So that's why I picked that to pursue that opportunity. And then from Clari, it was probably a mix of just being in-house and feeling, all the stuff from in-house. It's like, it's really hard to get good ideas to press. And by that, I mean published, because there's so many rounds of internal edits and executives who need to get their fingerprints on it. And like, it's really, can we curse here?
Yeah, there's no rules.
Really fucking hard to get a great idea through those loops. It was challenging. I wasn't feeling very creatively free. And I think just while I love my team and, I think we did a lot of really great work there, that starts to kind of build up. And so when I was prepping to leave then, I had a conversation with Mark Huber, who is the VP of User Evidence, VP of Marketing at User Evidence right now. And we're about the same age. We had about the same type of experience. And he had just landed his first VP gig like 6 months before. And so we're walking in downtown Austin, and I'm kind of half complaining, half bitching, half looking for advice. And he's like, can I tell you something you might not love? And I'm like, pause, because Mark's a very sweet guy. So for him to like tee that up, I'm like, yes, you may. And he's like, dude, you can be a VP. I just don't think you're going to like it. He's like, there's just a lot of paperwork and like just stuff that like you don't seem to love, because I've seen your show and I've seen how you operate, and like you like doing the work and being big creative swings and all that. He's like, you just don't do that much of that as a VP. And so that was really helpful, because at the time I was like, I'm either going to go solo or I'm going to go be a VP of marketing and like move up the ladder and test myself there. And so that was a really pivotal moment for me to realize like, hey, I'm not going to pursue executive life just for the sake of it. I'm going to go take a bet on myself, run the reader full time and see what happens.
Dude, I appreciate you saying that you felt this like tension between like, can I do it again? Am I this one hit wonder? Like, meanwhile, you got like probably 50,000 followers on LinkedIn at the time. Like, there's so many things giving you this tailwind. And I know hundreds of people who have gone out on their own with like 1,000 followers. They've worked at a company no one's ever heard of. And so it's just interesting to hear the tension. I think a lot of people will look at you and go, it's Devin Reed. Like, of course he went out on his own. Of course this shit's successful. Like, he's got this big ass following. He's worked at these big ass companies. He's got this cool ass show. Like, you look at them Jordans. He's got like all this shit, right? And I just think it's important that, like, one, I appreciate you just sharing the human side of doing this. And like, look, we all have the tensions in our life that kind of pull us in either direction. And like, I know you got kids, you got a family, you got a house, you have all the stuff that's like, I can't take a swing. Like, I need as much certainty as possible because I got to support my family. And I think there's that weight will force you to do certain things and force you to manage risk in ways that you probably, like, if it was just you probably just would have like, let's just figure it out.
You roll the dice, there's not a lot to lose. And because, you bounce back and, I'm in my 30s now. When you don't have a family, it's like you can afford more, so to speak, and literally. But, it did also remind me, and I didn't obviously make this up, but like there's playing, it's like avoid losing, and then there's playing to win. And I had caught myself in like, I feel like I'm playing just to avoid losing. Like, I don't want to lose. I'm feeling kind of like, I need to protect what I've earned. The last 10 years I built this stuff and this lifestyle. I need to make sure I keep it. And I'm kind of doing this, like, folks who can't see me, like, kind of hunched and tight body language. And I'm like, that's not where even the best marketing comes from. And that's not when I'm the happiest, when I'm like trying not to lose. Like, no, I like to roll the dice with a lot on the line and take big swings, because that's when big wins happen. And that's how I've built my career. That's how I got here. And so, yeah, doing the reader full time was like, that's the opportunity. Like, there's no one in the way. It's just me. And that makes it scary, but also awesome that every day I get to wake up and it's like, if I want to phone it in and just get the work done, I can do that. But if I want to spend 4 hours on a big idea and take a big swing, I can do that too.
Yeah, there's the scarcity versus abundance mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to let that scarcity take hold, no matter what level of success you think you've achieved, or that, like, the perceived success. Like, there's a lot of optics when you're scrolling through your LinkedIn feed and you see someone who's posting bangers, getting 200 likes a post. It's like, there's a lot of optics there. There's no which way about it. And it's interesting, the more people I speak with that have, like, the bigger the audience, like, the bigger the doubt a lot of people have when doing this, when leaving work. So, or leaving like W-2 life. So for you, what were some of those things that you were second guessing about just the mechanics of leaving or starting your own thing?
So I had less of that worry, only because, Nick, I had been running the reader while at Gong and a little bit like while at Clari. So it came in, kind of, I'm doing the wave motion with my hand, because like sometimes I kind of dialed it up and took on a little more like consulting work. But like, I was writing the newsletter and getting sponsors. I was getting sponsored LinkedIn posts. I was getting inbound without even like I had a website, but it was like one page, very basic, like nothing like that told you a compelling offer. It was just like, I'm Devin, sign up for my newsletter and you can like hire me. And I was getting some leads just by posting on LinkedIn in my newsletter, right? So like, I shared this because like I had a business, and for a year or two was making $100,000 on the side. So when I left Clari, I wasn't jumping into like cold unknown waters. I was like, there's at least something here. It was more of like, if I gave this 100% of my attention, is this going to turn into a much larger business or $150,000 a year business, right? Like, and I don't know, and I want to find out. So it was more of chasing my potential, which is something Erica Schneider had actually shared on the show, on Read Between the Lines, of like, when she had felt maybe, I'm putting a little bit of words in her mouth, like stifled in her day job. She's just like, am I reaching my potential? And that really stuck with me. And so later I was like, I'd rather take that swing now and give the business a chance and myself a chance. So I didn't have too much doubt. It was more of just like, let's find out.
It's interesting to hear like the way you articulate, like what I call it, just move the boat closer to the dock. How do you make it feel less like a leap? And you're just like, I'm just gonna it's just one step. And you're already taking on work. I think the thing that trips a lot of people up is that they start posting the day they leave their job. They start then. They don't start 2 years before. They start a newsletter. Like you had the motivation to start a newsletter. I don't know if you had a seed in the back of your mind. I was like, maybe one day I'll try to go out on my own. Maybe it's like, it's just good to have a list. Like, what was the motivation for you to start the reader, the newsletter? to begin with.
So I knew the value of having an audience because we're at Gong, we're like growing, email audience.
Right.
And LinkedIn, like, so I'm all in on audience growth. The fast version of the story was I wanted to write a book because I'm a book nerd, lit major growing up. So I'm like, I just want to, write a book. So I was like, every day on Sunday, I'll go to my office for an hour. I'll write 500 words. And in a few months, maybe a year, whatever, I'll have my marketing book, which was just really whatever I had learned up until that point. It wasn't a tell-all per se. And I think I made it like 3 weeks. And I was walking upstairs and was like, I don't want to do this. I really just don't enjoy this process. But I still wanted to write because I do, other than really wanting to help other marketers who were like me and maybe just didn't have like training or just wanted help, everyone, folks who have growth mindset want to get better. And I wanted to write every week on this. So I decided, hey, if I publish a newsletter, I still write those 500-ish words. I get to publish it and I'm going to build an audience. So when the book is done, I'll have an audience to sell it to. And so that was really it. Obviously, like, yes, having an email list is great, but there was no time. Like, this was 4 years ago. Like, I had no intention at the time of going solo. It was just like, why not have it? I don't know. I like writing. I'm good at it. Newsletter seems like an obvious route. And only till like 6 months in did I kind of really start to realize like, oh, I can get like ad dollars. And then I can do like, my like the light bulb starts going off. Like, this guy should be a big, again, still side hustle moneymaker here. And it's since turned into like the hub of the reader content strategy.
Are you still working on the book?
So I did publish it. It was an ebook called Content That Converts.
Okay, I did see that. I didn't know if you were like
Yeah.
binding a book and like I could buy it on Amazon type of thing.
So funny thing, which because you teach people like me, I also noticed some of the best books in the world, like things that changed our lives, are $29.99 at the most. But if you put it into an ebook, you can charge like $100+ for it. And it makes no sense, but it is. So I was like, could this really be like, is it really like a book? No, because it's not like it doesn't have the things of a published book. It's a playbook. I kind of turned into like a 30-day reader, no pun intended, which was like a actionable lesson every single day for 30 days. And if you do these things, you'll become a better content creator, grow your email, grow your LinkedIn, etc. So I kind of just packaged that up, put it for sale, and I've since sold, 5 figures, nothing crazy over the last few years. But I do have an actual book that I'm going to write. The classic outlining it in my head for 2 years situation. But yeah, I've got one that I'll eventually, I need to have a paper book in my hand that I've written before I croak. That's my thing. Before I take the dirt nap, as I said.
Like there's a cover with your name on it, yes. And like your kids will hold it and they're going to go like, look at this shit. Look at what dad did. Isn't that cool?
Yes. Hopefully they think it's cool.
Well, I think people over-engineer writing a book these days because it's not like you have to like go and hide for 6 months and write a book. And it's right. Like what you're doing, like you've written a book already. You just published it as LinkedIn posts and newsletters. Like right. To compile all that, reorganize it. I have no doubt you have probably 5 books worth of stuff that you could publish.
We'll see. So yeah, I'm gonna hopefully. I would love to get a serious outline and start that process this year, and publish it next year would be a good goal for me.
Hell yeah, man! You talked about the sponsorships that came on the newsletter. I know you're running services. You do sponsored posts. Like you have a bunch of different revenue streams coming through the reader, and I think it's just something that a lot of people aspire to hit. So like, talk to me about a little bit of what came through first and kind of how do you think about growing those and what direction, like what's most motivating you?
I'll share my story, and I have a quick article I've written about this in my newsletter, which was only saying this because it was like one of the surprisingly popular ones. And I say surprisingly because anytime where I'm kind of like, hey, I'm not teaching you a lesson today or like a distinct idea, I'm kind of just sharing something that I've gone through and maybe this is helpful. I feel like, does anyone give a shit? Those are the ones that people love. And it always surprises me. So I only say that I can maybe share with you. And, if you want to share with folks, whatever, like show notes or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
But basically how it started was, we'll say advising. And I say advising because people would reach out and say, hey, Deb, I've seen this great stuff you're doing at Gong. Can we talk to you, right? And I had done free calls because I'm like 18 months into this new marketing career. I still think I'm a fraud. And so like the idea that other directors and VPs even will reach out to me for advice was like, holy shit, that's crazy. So I did a few free ones, and then I started to realize like my cup is empty. Like they are asking, like it's just question for 30, 60 minutes. And I'm not really getting much out of it anymore. I'm definitely feeling more depleted. And so then I'm like, I changed the response to and I charge, I don't know, $250 or $500, whatever it was at the time. So that was revenue stream number 2, aside from my W2. And then I just kind of started charging a little bit more and more until people started saying no. And I kind of found this little sweet spot. And then that evolved with Notion. I think I actually might have been my first retainer gig. Was like, hey, instead of hourly, I'm going to pitch a retainer model that's worth way more and see how that goes. So more output, more work, but more money. So then that was like how that kind of evolved. Then it went into newsletter ads. Then it was a LinkedIn ads, which is like sponsored post. I'd have to look at that article now I think about it, because I'd gotten to 7, but I've since kind of like whittled it down and then kind of grown them back out. Because then it was like when you launched the sponsor, the ebook, that was another one. So yeah, I'd kind of like gone mostly probably in that order, which was like, hey, I'm basically just monetizing experience and then monetizing the attention on different channels, which again, I'm just sharing my experience, right? So 5,000 people on the newsletter, sell attention via ads. LinkedIn, sell attention via ads. Podcast. So the way I think about it in my head is like, how am I selling services versus how am I selling attention versus how am I selling direct products? And so then I kind of map it out that way.
I feel like it can get messy because your core business is selling content strategy services to B2B tech companies, right? B2B sale versus a lot of these other things that you're describing, like are often like a B2C sale. Like the ebook is a B2C sale. Yeah, the sponsored posts, but like those posts, it's hard to format that. And it's like, how do all these things click into place and actually like serve the greater good of the thing that I want to be known for and the thing that I do?
Right.
Because the newsletters, like that's like, it feels like a B2C play. There's a lot of different stuff in there, but like, how do you think about growing this thing for you? So I saw a post that you did a while ago. It wasn't too long after you went on your own and you were like 40K day and you were hyped on it. I mean, you should be hyped. That was pretty sick.
Workers haunting me to this day. got a lot of feedback. We'll say good and bad on that one.
Yeah. I mean, well, you can't unring the bell, I guess, right? It's there. So I saw the post though, like everybody else. And it's like selling the consulting services for the majority of people is always going to be the bread and butter. And I think that there's this feeling that passive income is truly as passive as they say, or it's not as passive as they want it to be in their minds. Like you have the ebook, but does the ebook create a meaningful percentage of your revenue every single month?
No, because I don't promote it because it's not passive.
It's not passive, right?
Which in a way I did learn through this thing where I'm like, yeah, my initial launch was pretty good because people know me and, you have that initial like fan base. And then, yeah, after a few months, you're like, oh shit, I have to like put in significant effort if I want to make significant money. And for me, I just didn't have it. And so I was like, it's very passive and a little more than negligible, we'll say.
Yeah. But it's like, this is just the reality of the work. And it's like especially when you have multiple products and services to sell, people see like the Justin Welsh model and they're like, this dude made $5 million selling $150 courses. Like, I want that thing.
Yeah.
And it's not as straightforward. I mean, even with 90,000 followers, you're like, you have to press pretty hard. And then that just draws off of the thing that creates 1,000 times the amount of leverage, which is your consulting services. Yep. Like there's no substitute for that. And it's like with the consulting services side, so you were doing a little bit on the side. I mean, I guess, so how did you acquire those first clients?
So I was a sales rep and I hated chasing leads, I'll say. I didn't mind prospecting via email. But I just remember like, God, it's really hard to get someone to know that we exist and to take a meeting with me. And then even when they're in the sales process, you get ghosted at any moment. And so when I moved to marketing, I was like, what if instead of chasing leads, I could get people to attract them to me? So that was always been something I've kind of been passionate and a little bit obsessed by, which I think like persuasive copywriting or persuasive writing, which kind of is copywriting, it's like magic. And I just think it's so cool. And not in the cheesy, pushy, salesy way, but I would say, Nick, like I was saying this before recording, you're fantastic at this. Like, I know you have something to sell. I like that. But you help me every step of the way and there's an offer. So it's this good balance of like, I know eventually, and I know this, I'm guessing this is your point of view. Eventually when Devin's ready, he'll buy, right? When the moment's right. Or he'll leave the list because he never should have been here in the first place. So I'm like on your list and I'm enjoying it. So it's like, I think that's really cool to be able to build authority and credibility and all those nice things, mindshare, and sell them something and have the person thank you for it. That's the thing I think that gets missed in this internet culture of $1 million course sales and stuff is like, yeah, that is cool. $1 million is awesome. I think we'll all take that. But like, I'm guessing for you too, Nick, like having someone like, hey, I found your email list and I love it. And I put this into action and I'm making more money. And then I signed up for your community or buy whatever, whatever that thing is. And they come back and be like, dude, thank you so much. This changed my life.
There's the greatest thing in the world.
That's the holy grail. Like you're running a business that you're selling things and they're thanking you for it. And so I actually forgot the question because I got passionate about that. But like, that's how I think about it. And so that's what I've been doing with my content. And so I think that has attracted people to me because I've been sharing what I've learned at Gong. I've been sharing my process and all these things very openly. And so I think people saw that expertise and they would just come to me and say, hey, basically you're good at marketing. That's how it started. It's like, you're good at marketing. Can you help us be good at marketing? And now that I run my own business, it's like, obviously there's a more specific and concrete offer that is visible on my website. So now it's like when people come to me, the sentence is always the same. Been following you on LinkedIn. That's it. That's the number one lead source. Lately, it's been the LinkedIn and the show, which is really cool. But they already know me. They like me. They trust me. And they're more like, how do I buy this from you and what's entailed versus when I was a sales rep, it's like, so why should I be on this call? I actually don't remember why I accepted this a week ago, and then like that's a much bigger uphill battle.
Yeah. Well, there's like the know, like, and trust thing is a big part of it, but people get your vibe. For sure. They feel way more connected to you. Like we talked about, it's like you become kind of a character in their life. And I appreciate what you said about just the work that I do. I feel like the world's worst writer and that I'm not good at doing any of this stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think I very much enjoy podcasting and doing this stuff and getting on calls with people way more than writing. So the fact that, so you saying that means a lot. I appreciate it. But I think for getting the thank you, getting people like, hey, like that was awesome. Like that's a new thing for me. And I think it's really tethered to the show. Like when you help someone do something, like you said, it's like, it's not a matter of if, it's just when.
Yes.
And I've talked to a few people that I was saying, like, I've always had an issue with people knowing what I did or like knowing the offer that I had or knowing like they're known, but they're not known for the thing that they want to be known for necessarily, or for the problem that they solve. And so there's always like they're just kind of they're a face on LinkedIn and they can get great engagement. But when it comes to getting like any inbound or anything like that, or just getting calls booked, people just don't have that association that you have with content marketing for B2B tech startups.
100%. And that was always my thing. I call it the one word principle, which is like, what is that one word that you're synonymous with in your market, right? Whether it be content strategy or solopreneurship, maybe for you, or maybe something different. Like that's mindshare. It's just a tactical way to think about it. And I just knew, selling or even sometimes when I was in the buying seat is like, there's two kind of conversations, right? There's Nick and Devin right now talking. And maybe not anymore, but at the time, maybe the word editing would be the word for Erica, right? And she's kind of outgrown that. But for a time, I think she owned editing.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
And she's even been one of my keynotes with this exact example on her face on screen, and she knows this. So it's like, if me and you were talking and editing gets brought up, we think of Erica. Erica might get at the very least, she's getting goodwill within her peers. At the most, she might get an introduction for a partnership, client, what have you, right? And then there's the closed door conversations that our prospects have, which if you're selling to marketers like me, they have monthly, weekly, quarterly marketing meetings and planning meetings. And if someone mentions like, hey, our content kind of sucks, or hey, our content strategy might need to change, I want someone to be like, have y'all heard of Devin Reed? Or hey, I know Devin, I follow him. Let's reach out to him. Because I want that first call. I want to be the first person you think of, the first person you reach out to, because then it's kind of mine to lose. And I'm sure there's like HubSpot data out there somewhere, like the first person gets there, first vendor gets the deal. But I've just been focusing on that maniacally for like 4 years. And so I'm seeing compounding interest of that now. And so now when I put out a post like, hey, I have a client opening, which is rare, but if I put it out there, I have more than enough leads, like more than enough people come in, and I can have a 2%, maybe a 5% conversion rate and still get that slot filled.
Yeah.
Which is like, again, goes back to that, like, it feels like magic. It feels like crazy that is the case, but it is. And it's cool experience.
Yeah. When I first met Erica, one of the first things she told me, she was like, I got to get out of editing.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. That was why that was the part of the shift that we had to make when we created Content Sparring was
right.
Like, it's like, I'm known for editing, and editing's kind of getting destroyed with ChatGPT and all sort of stuff. it's becoming highly commoditized. And there's just like, there's a bunch of stuff around it too. She was like, I've done enough of it. I'm trying to get out of that into something bigger. And it's like to rewire the thing you're known for, right? Your niche or the problem that you solve for people. It's not impossible. I mean, Erica did it. I think to some degree she's still known for editing, but the vast majority of people kind of just leave that behind as you shift into something else. And so, but there's so many people that are afraid to shift when they need to. Like for you, you've been in content strategy at that, or content marketing, however you want to package it up, but you've been in that space and you've stayed in that space. But if you wanted to shift into content leadership, I don't know, making something up. Yeah. If you want to shift into that, it wouldn't be such a crazy leap. Like it's totally possible. And you can kind of modify your category. Like, and I think the interesting concept of this is like, I'm like very much a category first thinker. Like no solopreneurship, no Nick. It doesn't work the other way around. Yeah. No content marketing, content strategy. Like there's no Devin Reed. Like you need some of these things to give us context. And it's like trying to just make sure that you're tethered to the right one.
100%. And that's some of the work I'm sure you do. And I do with B2B companies. Like, what is that? What is that thing? Because the more people you add to a company and the more ideas and products, like it gets diluted and lost. And it's like, no, let's get back to like, I don't know if it's back to basics or like the fundamental thing of marketing, like recall, trust, like get that recall. Yeah. And that's what I think too, is like for anyone listening, like the best thing you probably do is like study direct response copywriting, the concept of recall and brand marketing. Like when you mix those two things together and you find that niche and you start to even earn a little bit of that attention in that pie, the payoff is huge. And so I've experienced it and now I help other folks build it too.
Well, you've been inside some of these category creating companies. Like Clari is very well known for creating like the category of RevOps and really evangelizing the problem of revenue. Like, what was it like inside of a company that's, because I think they've been pretty public about how they've engaged with like Play Bigger and stuff like that to do some of that work. Like, what was it like doing that work and trying to create a new idea and create a new problem for people?
Rewarding, exhausting, and frustrating are the emotions that came to mind. And I don't know how good the mic is, but they might have picked up the involuntary slight heavy sigh that I gave as you're asking the question. Not because I don't like the question, but because of the memories of it. So it's funny. So I've done 4 category creations at 2 companies.
I'm already exhausted.
Yeah. So I was like, no one's probably more niche than me in terms of like, a category creating content strategist who understands audience growth and rev tag. You know what I mean? Like it's like, there's like 5 companies I need that. So at Gong, conversation intelligence, I think it was already a category. Now, Gong did a great job of kind of commandeering it, which was like they didn't actually create it, but they made it seem like it by dominating it and owning it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then right when we were like, we're number one, it was like Chorus and one other company. And it was like, hey, we won. And like, it was just obvious in the market, like we're both by revenue numbers that no one's being openly honest about, but you hear it through the grapevine and like just all the external obvious metrics, like Gong had won. Great. Right when we won, they're like, we're changing it. And the reason why was from conversation intelligence was mostly calls. So like what we're doing right now. And the product vision was to go into email and forecasting and sales engagement. And so the product vision outgrew the category. So they turned it into revenue intelligence. So all right, great. Now I got to go do the whole, put on your backpack and your hiking gear and go climb that mountain again. And that one was a little more complex because other players were coming in from other points. So like not everyone was coming from conversation intelligence, revenue intelligence. It was like kind of like sales intelligence or revenue operations. This new quadrant was starting to kind of form. So anyway, incredibly challenging, and I'll get to Clari in a sec, but also very fun because as a content marketer and the leader of that team, the CMO was like, hey, we need to own this. What do you think we should do? Now, he had ideas. He's a brilliant marketer, but like it was really cool to come up with ways to like net new channel, like the podcast I mentioned earlier was Reveal, the revenue intelligence podcast. That was like the big pillar for that one. So it was really fun to build the content strategy and execute it and like try to get people saying these words. And to be very clear, there's a whole great marketing team that everyone had a hand in it. And then the whole company had a hand in it because to create and win a category, it is a company initiative. Marketing just leads it. So that was cool. And then when I went to Clari, similar thing where they had like won RevOps. Like they made it, ran it, crushing it. And then they started acquiring companies to get into sales engagement, to get into conversation intelligence. And so they hired, I'm not sure exactly when, but Chris Lockhead, who was one of the writers of Play Bigger, which is also a huge reason that I joined the company as a strategic advisor. And so then they changed it to, and I still hate it to this day, from revenue operations to revenue collaboration and governance.
Yeah.
Sit on that for a second. It's the 9 mouthfuls. And so I had loved everything about the opportunity, but I hated the category name. And then they shortened it to Rev CG, but no one knew what CG meant. So it was just extra confusing. And they've since changed it again, actually, to revenue platform. So I don't know what's going on over there anymore. I don't work there. But yeah, man, it's cool and it's fun. I think the most challenging thing is to create a new idea and then a new phrase to label that idea and get other people to understand and use that phrase and adopt those ideas. That last bit is what makes a category tip. It's really hard to do, but if you follow the Play Bigger philosophy, it's like 74% of the market goes to the category king or queen. So if you want to win big, it's like worth playing that way.
I think it's worth playing that way, even if you're us. I mean, a lot of the people that I work with, like, I think about people like John Benini. Like, no one was saying I want to be a content brand before John was like, hey, here's the thing. Here's a category of brand that you could become. It's content brand. Yes. And people come to him to start marketing like a content brand. They want that thing. And so what you're saying is right? Like, that's the stuff that really fuels word of mouth. It's like and how do you become known for those ideas? How do you become known for that problem? The problem that becoming a content brand solves, for example.
Yep.
What's super fascinating is that there's like a ton of people in this world trying to solve like a lot of the same problems, especially the content problem. Right. And I've given this example before, but like, it's so simple. They're two very successful people. There's Erin Balsa. She runs House of Bold. She runs a company and now a new offer called Bland to Bold. And the whole purpose of Bland to Bold is like, she's creating a from to. So if people agree with the concept of bland and then they decide that the future they want is bold, boom, right. Like you need Erin and you don't need someone like John or someone like you. Like, right. And so giving people the mental scaffolding to think about some of this stuff is huge. And it makes a massive difference, even at our scale. It makes a huge, huge difference.
I'm jealous of John Bonini because when I heard content brand, I was like, shit, I wish I had come up with that. Because I did exactly, not exactly like what I do, but like so close in a lot of ways where I was like, damn, I wish I'd come up with that. I love from bland to bold. That's probably like it's perfect word of mouth from what our market says. And then I don't know if you know Brendan Hufford, but checkbox marketing. I was pissed. I told him, I was like, I didn't know who you really were. And I read checkbox marketing and hated you for a day because I wanted to come up with it before you. And now we're really good friends. And I obviously love him.
Yeah, I love Brendan. Brendan's one of the nicest people on the planet. He was on the show not too long ago. And what he's doing, I mean, he's also, I think this is like the most fascinating thing about all the people doing this stuff. Like I think he's one of the people who was pioneering like a different model. Everyone's just kind of on the, let's get retainers, pack your roster and just like manage churn. He's like, let's build churn into the process, sprint.
Yeah.
And it's that, how do you see it? How do you tend to build yours? Because I'm curious, like he has the means, and when I say means, like the reach to help him try to manage that road to that client rotation, which is typically pretty tough for someone to do if they're like already adding in that attrition into their business model.
Brendan, to be clear, is my friend and my voluntold big brother and my mentor. He's like all these things and he knows this. So if he's listening, he'll laugh right now. And I say all that to give him credit because I had the same idea, but I didn't know about growth sprints. And I love the name sprint. I had just come from marketing leadership where I was used to the 12-month engagement or basically longer engagement that I really want, retainer model, and a little light or fluffy on like what actually is going to get done. It was really tough sometimes, like to confidently get a consultant, advisor, agency through because like, I'm kind of like, I don't know, this isn't quite what I'm looking for. And so when I thought about why, it's because, long contracts was a big part of it and just feeling like you're overpaying and not really knowing exactly what you're going to get. I think we're kind of like the three big things. So when I designed mine, it was content. I call it content strategy design. Like that's the process. And it's a 12-week, I say sprint now because I know him and he's infiltrated my brain, but it's 12-week engagement. And there's 3 specific steps. Here's what they look like. It's all broken down. At the end, it's very clear what you're going to get. And I even pitch people, I'm like, at the end, We can do two things. You can shake hands and part ways, or you can hire me on as like an advisor to help coach you through the change management of this program we've built together. And both are totally fine. And so people like that because they like that out and they don't like feeling constrained or pressured into like keeping me around. And I even tell people, I'm like, most people, we break up at about 5 months. So there's 3 months of the initial and then 2 months after. And I want them to, like, I don't call it like breaking up or firing me. I call it graduating. I graduated you out. I made you successful. I'm like, I want to make you successful and as quickly as I can for the least amount of money for you. That's what I want to do. If it lasts 2 years, awesome, we'll hang out. If it lasts 3 months, awesome, we'll hang out that long. But like, so it kind of removes this pressure and this like churn or losing clients. I'm like, we don't lose clients. We don't. We make them successful and we go find new ones.
Yeah, it's the go find new ones that I think people struggle with. That's like the thing. It's like,
so I think I have a little bit of that built in. We're like, no shit, we need new clients. Like that's how businesses run for the most part.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's like, I think one of the things that you alluded to earlier was just like, and I don't know if this is going to sound shitty, but it just kind of is what it is. Like you're just not afraid to go get clients. Like I talked to some people, I'm just like, yeah, don't be afraid of money. Don't be afraid of, like, just go and get one. Like, I don't know. I don't want to minimize like the work that it is to go and find someone to take a chance on you. But it's like, you can go out there and you can have conversations with people. You can build relationships with people. Those relationships can become business opportunities or lead to business opportunities in some way. You can go and do it. And like, and you also alluded to this other concept, which is like all that stuff compounds over time. Like no one knew who the hell I was a year and a half ago. And now when someone posts something on LinkedIn about, hey, who should we talk to about soulpreneurship stuff? People I don't know tag me. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, dude, I agree. Well, so for anyone listening who's struggling with that and is doing I need a better name for it, but I say the problem nod, which like, you're describing problem. They're like, yeah, that's me. I still struggle with it a little bit, but less of like going and asking for money because I've done it for years. Like I know the ins and outs of like selling.
Having a sales background makes a massive difference. Like sales is a big hang up for people.
Well, yeah, if you grew up a marketer and now you're a solopreneur, like you've never asked for money. So I get it. And I love that you're like, I'm not minimizing it, but it's doable. That's like, sometimes it's like, the water's cold. It's like, just get in. Like, just get in the water. It will be better in a minute. But for me, like when I set my prices, like I'm grateful. One of the metrics I look at is satisfaction rate, which is, do I get a positive customer review? Like they're willing to go on video or on text and like say something positive. Like that means they're happy, right? No Nerf gun to anyone's head. They do it on their own. 100% satisfaction rate 9 months in, which is awesome. So every time I finish an engagement, like, so basically every 3-ish months, I go through these waves of increasing prices. And in hindsight, I'm always like, shit, I should have just charged more 3 months ago. But the truth is I didn't have the confidence and conviction to do it because I hadn't delivered outsized results. Like, I know I've done it, but like, until I can get like a stranger, so to speak, to go through this and see big wins and be happy, I just don't feel comfortable asking for like that much money. So every 3 months when I have happy customers and big results and cool dashboards, I'm like, awesome. Now I'm turning that up 20%, 30%. And it's actually been working. So now that I'm on my third wave and I just started doing it this quarter, like the forecast is looking much better with 20% increases.
Yeah, but they're paying for all the work you put into making the program better over the last quarter and the quarter before that, right? Like all of those iterations, and you learn like, we don't need this, we need to add this in, we need to improve this flow. Like they're getting that. That's extraordinarily valuable.
Yes.
Don't write that off. I mean, I think there's a lot of confidence in being able to say a number to someone and not crack a smile or not cave immediately. But we could do a discount or whatever. Like it takes a lot of confidence.
And I've had to just throw big numbers out sometimes and just sit there and like, will they? And honest to God, 90% they're like, cool, that works. I'm like, oh, okay. All right.
You're like, I didn't charge enough.
Well, then I go, I'll grow into that. I think of this as like, I'm going to throw the number out there. If they say, yes, cool, I'm going to grow into that, crush it, think on it, like reflect, and then be like, cool, more next time. And eventually there's a ceiling, obviously. You can't charge $1 million for what I do unless there's a $10 million return, I suppose. So I caught myself. I'm learning to rewire my brain there. But yeah, I think it's like, just take a bet on, and kind of go back to what we're saying, like take a bet on yourself. Like the worst thing that's really going to happen is they're going to negotiate with you. Unless you're just absurdly overpriced. Like they're going to be like, okay, so this all looks good in the scope, which is another thing I've done. Where it's like, before I quote you anything, I put a scope tail in a Google Doc. We revise and work on that together. And then when it's like 90% done, I'm like, now I will give you a price, because I also have a better sense of like the impact. Like a quick anecdote was like, hopefully they're going to sign, but this company's like, we want to go from 12 to 15% of our inbound demo conversion rate. Cool. What's your ACV? What's your, time, deal velocity, all this stuff. And I was like, if we do 1%, you're getting like $1.2 million in pipeline. So if I quote you, not the number, but like 20 grand, that's nothing. That is nothing to get that type of return. So that's what I think too, is like, yes, there's the work you put into it, but I know you teach this, is like the impact, like base your price on the impact. Like, hey, if you're going to get $1 million in pipeline and I'm charging 1% or 10%, whatever, like that's very feasible to a reasonable executive.
Hell yeah, man. All right. Real quick, looking back, what's something you would have done differently?
I wish I would have given myself more space and grace to learn this and to not put so much internal pressure on myself to be as successful as fast as possible.
I think it's fair. I think what we talked about, having a family will, you feel like your back's against the wall no matter what to provide. So I respect that. Dude, let's end here, dude. What do you want to build that you haven't built yet? What's next for you and for the reader?
I am building my first AI agent with the folks over at agent.ai. So that's the big build. I also have a LinkedIn cohort training that I'm launching in a week or two. Today's April 3rd or something. When it goes live. We didn't talk about it much, but I have this offer where I do LinkedIn strategy and content creation for CEOs. So I've built this system that works for me. It works for them. And now I'm just training that via a digital cohort. So it'll be a new thing, a new delivery mechanism. And if I build anything more than that, my wife is going to tell me to stop and slow down.
She keeps the trains running on time, dude. I see her.
There's no reader without Shali Reed. So yeah.
Shout out to Shali, because I see her. She's cooking, dude.
She's cooking, and she's cooking me on the LinkedIn engagement metrics. So we look at just engagement metrics. We're going to do a side-by-side post here. She's crushing it.
Dude, she's 100% vibes, and people love it. So yeah. And me too. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story with me, dude. It means a lot to me, and I know more people feel seen because of it. So for that, I thank you.
Thank you, man. I had a great time.
Hey, it's Nick. Thanks for listening. If you want to take part in amazing conversations like these, then you need to check out Full Stack Solopreneur, where you'll get access to bi-weekly group coaching clinics, guest mini courses from legendary solopreneurs like Morgan Ingram and Max Trailer, and so much more. You can join right now at fullstacksolo.com. That's fullstacksolo.com. Tonight, you have to leave the planet for a variety of reasons. You're going to blast off and go to your planet of choice. The question is what's your last meal here?
Oh, you know what? I actually have this answer because I was asked this last week. Never had been answered, and I hadn't answered it before, but the rule, and I'll give you the same, was you have an appetizer, you have a main, and you have a dessert. So can I share the same?
Oh, you can do all the courses. Okay. You're the first person to go all courses, by the way.
Only because that's how I was prompted to be. I'm not like the bougie guy who's like, I always order appetizer. I almost never did. Which I remember really too, because there's with some Indian friends, and a lot of them are vegetarian and a lot of them don't eat beef. So every single one of my answers, they were like, never had it or don't agree. But I do have bougie answers. So the appetizer was bluefin sashimi, El Toro cut, which is like very, very good. It is a little expensive, but like, if you go to a nice restaurant, you're already spending, so you might as well get the good stuff. And because it's my final meal, I'd say the entree would be A5 Wagyu steak. Yep. So like, we're going bougie because I'm about to leave the planet. I'm not getting this again. I got to go.
There's no budget.
There's no budget. And then the dessert, which is, everyone gave me like the stink face. They're like, I cannot believe you said mango sticky rice. Mango sticky rice. Yes. I don't know if you've ever had like a truly amazing mango sticky rice, but it will change your life.
Noted. I wasn't expecting that. Like, you took a sharp turn on mango sticky rice. I thought you were going to be like death by chocolate. Like, just like a classic heavy hitter.
Imagine leaving the planet. You're going to wish you had a mango though for like years. You're going to look back and like, wish I had that.
I guess if wherever you're going, you're like, the odds of them having mangoes are pretty slim.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.